Blood was dripping down my face. My nose felt broken. My cheek was red and hot from the slap. I couldn't believe what just happened. David, my own brother, had hit me. Not by accident. Not by mistake. He looked me in the eye. And he hit me hard across the face. Then Maria, my sister, stood by and didn't even flinch. In fact, she pushed me toward him. She made it happen. She lied. And now, my own family was looking at me like I was a stranger. On my birthday. On the very day I thought I would be celebrated. I looked down and saw the cake I had baked, now smashed on the floor beside me. A few candles still flickered weakly, as if even they didn't understand what just happened. My beautiful fruitcake was gone. The table was pushed. A glass cup had fallen and shattered. Everyone stood still. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I raised my hand, trembling, shaking but firm, and I slapped David back. The sound echoed. He stumbled backward and grabbed the side of the chair to stop himself from falling. Maria gasped. Rosa screamed. And I stood there, breathing heavily, heart pounding, wondering how we got to this moment. How did we get here? Let me tell you. I had just turned 65 years old that morning. I woke up with a peaceful heart and a hopeful mind. The sun was warm. The birds were singing outside my window. The soft breeze smelled like the flowers from my little garden. I smiled as I slowly sat up on my bed. My bones ached, yes, but something about that morning felt good. It was a new year of life. And I felt grateful. I washed my face, brushed my gray hair gently, and opened the old wooden chest at the bottom of my bed. Inside it, wrapped in a soft towel, was a blue dress. It was the one Rosa, my daughter, had gifted me 3 years ago. I hadn't worn it since. But today was special. I dressed slowly, humming a soft tune from childhood. Then I made my way to the kitchen to start baking the one thing I looked forward to every year. My fruit and nut birthday cake. The recipe came from my mother. She had taught me how to bake it when I was 10. She used to say, "This cake is for love. Bake it only when your heart is full." So I did. Every year. Even when nobody came. I peeled apples, mashed bananas, stirred flour, cracked eggs, and added just the right amount of honey and cinnamon. The scent filled the kitchen. Smiled. Felt strong again. I finished cleaning the living room, placing fresh flowers on the small center table and arranging the chairs in a circle. I even brought out a few old family photos and placed them on the wall for memories. This year I told myself would be different. I had invited all my siblings. Maria, David, Carmen, and even Tomas. We hadn't been close for many years. Arguments, jealousy. But I was tired. I wanted to make peace. I was tired of growing old alone. I also invited Rosa and her children. They were my light. Rosa always checked on me, always called, always cared. She promised she'd come early. By noon, Maria was the first to arrive. She wore high heels and had a serious look on her face. Her hug was quick and cold like a handshake. "Happy birthday," she said without a smile. "Nice dress. Finally wearing it." I smiled, pretending not to hear the bitterness. Yes, I thought today was a good day for it. Then David came. He didn't even knock. Just walked in, chewing gum, and sat down like he owned the place. He nodded at me. "Old lady still alive, huh?" Forced a laugh. "Still kicking," I said. Soon Carmen and Tomas arrived. Carmen didn't say much. Tomas mumbled a greeting and sat near the window. It was like a cold wind had entered the room. No one smiled. No one helped. I offered them juice. They took it silently. I asked about their children. They gave short answers. But still I stayed happy. I stayed hopeful. Then Rosa arrived. As soon as she entered the house, everything brightened. She brought joy with her. Her 2 children ran to hug me, shouting, "Happy birthday, Grandma." Rosa kissed my forehead. "Mama," she whispered, "you look so beautiful today." Tears stung my eyes. "Thank you, Rosa." She handed me a small box wrapped in yellow paper. "You'll open it later." For a moment I forgot about the others. Felt loved. Felt seen. We all sat around. I brought out the cake and placed it on the table. The candles were ready. I told everyone, let's sing and eat together. But then it began. Maria looked at Rosa and said, of course she brings gifts. She wants to show off again. Rosa frowned. What? David laughed. Don't act surprised. You always pretend to be the good one. I stepped in quickly. Please. Not today. It's my birthday. I just want peace. David shook his head. You never listened when we were younger. You always acted like our mother, telling us what to do, controlling everything. I was shocked. I was the oldest. I tried to help after Mama died. Maria hissed. You helped yourself to the house, to Mama's things. You stayed here like you owned it, like we were nothing. I felt a pain in my chest. That's not true. I stayed because someone had to take care of this home. You all left. David stood up. We left because of you. Your attitude. Your bossy ways. My hand shook. I looked at Rosa. Her face was red with anger. You will not speak to Mama like this, she said firmly. Maria turned to her. Oh please. You think you're better than us because you have a job and live in the city. Rosa moved forward. At least I treat my mother with respect. I stepped in between them. Please. Stop it. This is not what I planned. I wanted us to be together. Maria grabbed my arm tightly. Say sorry. Admit you always acted like you were better than us. Pulled back. No. I won't lie. Then David slapped me. Hard. The room went still. I couldn't move. I held my face. I looked around. No one stopped him. No one helped me. Until I helped myself. I stood. I raised my hand. And I slapped him back. It was louder than his. Stronger. He fell into the chair. Maria's mouth opened wide. Carmen gasped. Even Tomas stood up. I am not your slave, I shouted. I am not your enemy. I am your sister. I have cooked for you, prayed for you, begged for you. And this is how you treat me. David said nothing. Maria stepped toward me again. I moved back. But Carmen, quiet Carmen, got up and walked to me slowly. Her face looked blank. I thought she was coming to stop the fight. I thought maybe she was the calm one. Thought wrong. She looked into my eyes and whispered, You ruined this family. And before I could speak, she raised her hand. Carmen's palm sliced through the air. She slapped me hard across the face. Harder than David had. The sting wasn't just on my skin. It hit my chest, my heart, my soul. I staggered back and bumped into the flower vase. It fell and shattered into pieces on the floor. For a second the world was silent. Rosa screamed. Carmen, are you crazy? Carmen stood tall, breathing fast, her hands trembling. She deserved it. She always played the victim. She took Mama's love. She took the house. She made us feel small. I held the wall for balance. My ears rang. My face burned. But what hurt more than the pain was the words. The lies. The poison that poured from her mouth. Enough! Rosa shouted. You all are sick. How dare you hit Mama like that? She is not your mother, Maria snapped. You're just like her. Think you're better than all of us. I opened my mouth to speak, but tears fell instead. My hands covered my face. I had waited so long for this day. I wanted peace. I wanted family. But they gave me war. They gave me blood. They gave me pain. Little Julio, Rosa's son, ran to me and hugged my waist. Grandma, are you okay? That broke me. I dropped to my knees and cried. Loudly, deeply, like a child. Rosa rushed to my side and held me close. It's okay, Mama. I'm here. I'm here. But it wasn't okay. I looked up at my siblings and asked, what did I ever do to deserve this? Cleaned your messes. I stayed up at night when you were sick. I shared food when I had none. I gave up my youth for this family. David looked down, guilt flickering in his eyes, but not enough to apologize. Maria crossed her arms. You didn't have to stay. Chose to. And now you use it to control us. I never wanted control, I said through tears. I wanted unity. Carmen scoffed. Well, you failed. She turned and walked out of the house, slamming the door behind her. David followed, kicking the broken vase pieces on the floor. Maria took one last look at me and said, "Happy birthday," then walked out too. Silence. Just me, Rosa, her 2 children, and Tomas, who hadn't said a word all day. Tomas slowly walked over. He picked up a piece of the broken vase and whispered, "They were wrong. I'm sorry." I nodded weakly. I couldn't speak. Rosa helped me stand. My legs were shaking. I sat back on the chair. My dress was wrinkled. My cheek was red. My heart was bruised. "I should have never invited them," I whispered. "No," Rosa said gently. "You did the right thing. They showed who they really are." I looked at the broken cake, now smeared across the floor. The candles had all gone out. No singing. No laughter. Just pain. "I just wanted a peaceful birthday," I said. "You will still have one," Rosa said firmly. She stood up and took her children's hands. "Go get the small cake from the car. The one we brought for Grandma." The kids ran out excitedly. I looked at Rosa. "How do you still have joy after what just happened?" "Because I choose you," she said. "Not them. You raised me with love. That's what matters." Tomas cleared his throat. "Can I stay and help clean up?" I looked at him surprised. Tomas had always been the quiet one. He rarely came to family events. He never got involved. He nodded. "Yes. Thank you." We began picking up the broken vase pieces. Rosa wiped the floor. The kids returned with a small round cake with pink icing. It said, "Happy birthday, Mama." Tears filled my eyes again, but this time not from pain. They lit a few candles. "Make a wish," Rosa said. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I wish for strength. I wish for peace." Then I blew out the candles. Sang. We cut the cake. We laughed a little. It wasn't the birthday I had imagined, but maybe it was the birthday I needed. A clear line had been drawn. I now knew who stood with me and who stood against me. But the day wasn't over yet. Later that evening I walked Rosa and her kids to the car. Tomas stayed behind, sweeping the sitting room. I hugged Rosa tightly. "Thank you for being here. I'll always be here." She drove off and I turned back toward the house. As I reached the front door I noticed something strange. It was wide open. I was sure I had closed it just a few minutes ago. I stepped inside slowly. "Tomas," called. No answer. I walked into the sitting room. My eyes widened. The cabinet drawer was open. My mother's necklace, the one she gave me before she died, was gone. My heart dropped. "Tomas!" I shouted louder. Silence. I ran to the back room. Tomas was gone. The back door was open. And beside it was an envelope. I picked it up, hands trembling. It read, "Now you'll know what betrayal really feels like." I fell to my knees that I clutched the envelope in my hands as if it were poison. My breath was short. My knees weak. I leaned against the wall, staring at the spot where Tomas had just been. The air in the house was colder now, like the warmth Rosa brought had vanished with the stolen necklace. I opened the envelope with shaky fingers. Inside was a single sheet of paper, written in thick, rushed handwriting. "You think you're the victim. You took everything from us. This necklace was Mama's, not yours. You don't deserve it. You never did." I covered my mouth in shock. Quiet one. The one who had stayed behind to help. The one who swept the floor while I thought he was different from the rest. He had stolen from me. The necklace wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was the last thing Mama gave me before she died. She had whispered, "Keep this close. It will remind you who you are when the world forgets." And now it was gone, taken by the last person I thought could betray me. I sat on the floor, unable to cry. I had run out of tears. Today was supposed to be my birthday. Instead, it had become the day my whole family turned their back on me. And then Rosa called. "Mama, we just got home. Are you okay?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to say everything was fine. But I couldn't. No, I said softly. Tomas, he took Mama's necklace. What? Rosa shouted. Are you serious? He left a note. Said I never deserved it. He's gone. I'm coming back. No, Rosa. Stay with your children. There's nothing you can do right now. I'm not leaving you alone. She hung up before I could say another word. I placed the letter on the table and sat down slowly. My bones were tired, but my heart was more tired. I looked around at the broken cake, the smeared floor, the silence of the room, and I realized I had reached the end of my patience. I had given everything to my family. Everything. And now they had taken what little I had left. I stood up and looked in the mirror. My face was red and puffy from crying. My cheeks were still sore from the slaps. But my eyes, they looked different. Stronger. I whispered to myself. No more. I went to the closet and opened a small wooden box. Inside was a photo album. I flipped through it slowly. Photos of Mama holding me, photos of me holding Rosa, photos of family parties long forgotten. I paused at a photo of me, Maria, David, Carmen, and Tomas. We were all young, smiling, hugging each other. When did we lose that? I turned the page and found something else. Paper. An old legal paper Mama had left me years ago. Her will. Her final words. I had forgotten about it. I read it carefully. The house was mine. The necklace was mine. Everything Mama had. She left to me. She had written. To my daughter Elena, the one who stayed, the one who carried the weight, the one who never asked for praise. I give all I have to you. May you use it with love, not hate. I clutched the paper to my chest and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I felt Mama again. I felt her presence telling me, stand up. Don't let them take what you've earned. I stood up again. Then I heard a knock on the door. I rushed over and opened it. It was Rosa, out of breath, her children in the car. Mama, I'm staying here tonight, she said. You didn't have to come back, I whispered. I did. 'Cause this is your home. And no one should make you feel unsafe in it. She stepped in and looked around. He really took the necklace. I nodded and handed her the note. She read it and her face turned red. That snake. That coward. I'll go to the police. No, I said gently. We won't chase him. Why not? Because he's already lost. He lost something greater than a necklace. He lost the love and trust of the only person who still believed in him. Rosa hugged me tightly. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. We sat down and ate what was left of the second cake. The kids told jokes and tried to cheer me up. Rosa made tea, and for a few minutes things felt normal again. That night, after the children slept, Rosa and I sat outside on the small porch. The stars were bright and the wind was cool. You know, she said, when I was little, I used to think you were the strongest person in the world. Chuckled. And now I know it. Smiled. I used to think family was everything. But now I'm not so sure. Family isn't who shares your blood, she said. It's who shares your burden. I nodded slowly. Then you're my family. You and the kids. She took my hand. We'll get through this. I was about to respond when we heard footsteps. From the side of the house. I stood up quickly. Who's there? Called. No answer. Rosa grabbed a broomstick from behind the door and stepped out into the dark. In a voice. It's me, the voice said. Please don't call the police. We moved closer. It was Tomas. But something was wrong. His face was bruised. He was limping. He was crying. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't mean to take it. They made me do it. Froze. Who? David and Maria. They said I had to. They said if I didn't take the necklace and leave a message, they would tell everyone a lie about me. They threatened me. Rosa stepped forward. So you stole from your sister because they scared you? I didn't want to. Swear. But they said I owed them. They said you made me weak. He pulled the necklace from his pocket and held it out. Here. Please take it back. I didn't know what else to do. I stared at the necklace, then at him. Could I trust him again? Could I forgive him? Before I could answer, he collapsed to his knees. Please, forgive me. I walked to him slowly, and I heard a car screech. We all turned toward the road. A black car stopped in front of the house. The headlights stayed on. The door opened. Maria stepped out, and David followed. Maria shouted, "Tomas, what are you doing?" David pointed at me and yelled, "That necklace belongs to all of us." Rosa pulled me behind her. "Don't you dare step foot on this porch." But they were walking fast, angry, coming closer. And this time, they weren't alone. There were 2 more men behind them. I whispered to Rosa, "I think they're here to take everything." The men stepped out of the car behind Maria and David, tall, muscular, and with unfriendly faces. One of them wore dark glasses even though it was night, and the other held a metal rod in his hand like he came ready for war. I held Rosa's arm tightly. "What do they want from me?" I whispered. "They're trying to scare you," she replied. "But I won't let them." Maria shouted from the driveway. "You think this is over? That necklace belongs to our mother. You don't get to keep everything, Elena." David added, "You had your turn. Now it's ours." Tomas stepped forward, panicking. "Maria, David, stop." I gave it back. I gave it to her. David turned sharply toward him. "So you're a traitor now. You let her poison you too." "She didn't poison me," Tomas said, his voice shaking. "She helped me. She loved me when no one else did." Maria laughed bitterly. "Love? You call this love? She turned us all into nobodies and kept Mama's things like a greedy queen. You really think you'll be part of her little fairy tale family?" "I'm not part of any fairy tale," Tomas said. "But I'm done living under your shadow." Maria hissed and took a step forward, motioning for the men to follow. "If you won't take it, we will." "Not if I'm still breathing," Rosa said, standing in front of me with the broomstick held firmly. The 2 strange men advanced up the porch steps. I could hear my grandchildren crying softly inside the house. Fear was thick in the air. It smelled like anger and old memories. One of the men spoke. "We don't want trouble. Just hand over the necklace, and we'll go." "It's not yours," Rosa shouted. "Is this really how far you'll go?" I asked Maria, my voice shaking but firm. "Send thugs to threaten your own sister? On her birthday?" Maria's eyes flashed. "It stopped being your birthday the moment you became selfish." Rosa raised the broomstick, pointing it at them like a sword. "One step closer and I swear I'll scream loud enough for the whole town to hear." David smirked. "Then scream." I grabbed the necklace and ran inside the house. I went to the back room and opened the chest again. Beneath the old blankets and photo albums was a hidden metal box. I placed the necklace inside and locked it. Then I slid the box under the bed. No matter what happened tonight, they would not take my mother from me. I returned to the front door, just as one of the men shoved Rosa backward. She hit the side of the door and fell to the ground. I screamed, "No!" I ran to Rosa and helped her up. Her elbow was bleeding, but she stood. That's when I saw Tomas move. With trembling hands, he stood in front of me. He faced Maria and David and shouted, "Leave. Before I do something I'll regret." Maria's lips curled. "You regret? You don't have the guts." Tomas clenched his fists. "Try me." Then came a voice we weren't expecting. "Is everything okay here?" A flashlight beamed toward us from the road. A man in a police uniform was walking toward the house. It was Officer Manuel, the same man who passed by every night on patrol. David stepped back. Maria's face turned pale. Officer Manuel walked up to the porch and looked around. "Why are there raised voices and children crying?" "They came to steal," Rosa said, pointing at the men. Maria tried to speak. "This is a family matter." But the officer raised his hand. "I don't care if you're sisters or strangers. You don't come to someone's house at night and attack them. Everyone off the property now." David muttered something and started backing away. The two men followed him. Maria stood still, trembling with rage. "She stole from us," she whispered. Officer Manuel turned to her. "Unless you have papers, a court order or proof, you don't get to say that." "She has everything," Maria snapped. "And we have nothing." I stepped forward, wiping my tears. "You had me. And you threw me away." The officer turned to Maria and said firmly, "Leave, or I'll arrest you all for trespassing and assault." Maria's jaw tightened, but she turned and walked away. David and the men followed, getting back into the car. The tires screeched as they drove off into the night. Silence returned. The officer looked at me. "Are you all right, Elena?" I nodded slowly. "I think so." He gave me a soft smile. "You're stronger than you think. Call me if they come back." "I will. Thank you." After he left, Rosa collapsed into the chair. That was close. I sat beside her and held her hand. Tomas stood quietly in the corner, his eyes glassy. "I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so sorry." I looked at him for a long time. Then I said softly, "You made a mistake, but you came back. That matters." "I want to fix this," he whispered. "I want to change." "Then start by staying," I said. "Start by helping." He nodded. We slept that night with the door locked and the lights on. The house still felt heavy, but there was something new in the air. Truth. It was painful, but it was freeing. The next morning, Rosa and I sat in the garden, drinking tea. The kids played quietly nearby. Tomas was repairing the broken cabinet door. The sun felt warmer than before. But peace doesn't last long when your enemies are your own blood. Later that day, Rosa checked her phone and frowned. "Mama, you need to see this." She handed me the screen. There on social media was a post from Maria. "Elena isn't who she pretends to be. She brainwashed our little brother. She tricked our mother. The truth is coming. Soon." My heart dropped. And below that post, dozens of comments. Strangers asking questions. Others sharing rumors. One even said I had stolen money from Mama's grave. My hands began to shake. "They're trying to destroy me," I whispered. Rosa looked angry. "They can't. You've already survived their worst." But then came a knock on the gate. A man in a suit. A letter in his hand. I walked toward him. He handed me the paper and said, "You've been summoned to court. Your siblings are suing you for inheritance fraud." The next morning, I woke up to the sound of voices outside. At first, I thought it was just neighbors passing by. But when I looked through the window, I saw something that froze my heart. My brother Carlos and my sister Isabella were outside again. This time they had brought their children, my nieces and nephews, and they were all holding big bags. My heart dropped. What were they doing here again? Hadn't last night's fight been enough? I opened the door slowly, unsure of what they wanted now. As soon as they saw me, Isabella smiled like nothing had happened. "Good morning, Maria," she said sweetly. "We came to help you clean up after your little party." My party. The one they had ruined. Carlos held up a box of cleaning supplies. "We brought things to tidy up the mess," he said, but I could see through them. They didn't care about cleaning. Something was off. I stepped aside to let them in because I didn't want another fight in front of the neighbors. My house was quiet and still had a bit of yesterday's leftover decorations. Balloons hung sadly from the corners of the room. The cake had dried up. The room still smelled faintly of perfume and sweat. Isabella's kids ran inside like they owned the place. They turned on the TV, threw their shoes around, and started fighting over the remote. I stood silently, trying to stay calm. Carlos went straight to the kitchen and began checking the cabinets. I watched him closely. When he saw me looking, he smiled. "Just checking if you have enough sugar. You know the kids love pancakes." "Pancakes? Now, why are you all really here?" asked finally. Isabella turned to me with a sigh. "Maria, you're our sister. We were angry yesterday, but we realized we were too hard on you. So we decided to come make it right." That would have been nice if it were true. But I saw the way she looked at my purse when I walked past it. I noticed how Carlos had already started counting the food in my freezer. They were looking for what they could take, not what they could give. I smiled politely, hiding my fear and anger. "All right," I said softly. "But let's talk first." We all sat down and I tried to stay strong. "I love you both," I began. "But yesterday you crossed a line. You hit me. On my birthday. In my home." Carlos rolled his eyes. "Maria, you're still crying about that. You slapped me first." Isabella nodded. "And I was just trying to protect him. You always act like you're better than us." "I don't act better," I said, my voice shaking. "I just want peace. I wanted one peaceful birthday. Just one." Their expressions hardened. Carlos leaned forward. "Maria, you think we came here just for peace? We came here because you owe us." My stomach turned. "Owe you?" "Yes." He nodded. "Mama left you the house. You've been living here free. We were struggling. And you didn't offer anything." Isabella chimed in. "We have kids. Don't. You're alone, old and selfish." That's when I stood up. My legs were trembling, but I stood tall. "This house was left to all of us. I never stopped you from coming to visit. I never turned you away. But now you come into my house, lie to my face, and then say I owe you. No." Carlos stood too. His voice rose. "We're taking what we deserve." Before I could react, he walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. He started pulling out food, stacking it in bags. Isabella did the same with my jewelry box from the bedroom. I ran after them, trying to stop them, shouting, pleading, but they pushed me aside like I was nothing. It was chaos. Their kids were screaming in the living room. One of them threw a glass on the floor. Another climbed on my sofa and jumped until the wood cracked. My home, my quiet, small home, was being torn apart before my eyes. Suddenly, Carlos came out of the kitchen holding a hammer. "You better sit down, Maria," he threatened. "Unless you want more trouble." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My own brother holding a weapon in my house. "You wouldn't dare," I whispered, heart pounding. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Try me." I backed away slowly. The room was spinning. My hands were shaking. Isabella had already zipped up a bag of my clothes. My hard-earned clothes. My memories. And then I saw something that stopped me cold. Isabella was standing at my hallway entrance, holding an envelope in her hand. The envelope where I kept the little money I had saved for my medication and rent. She opened it and smiled. "You've been hiding money," she said. "Figures." "No," I cried, rushing toward her. "That's for my health, please, that's all I have." She pushed me back hard and I fell to the floor. Carlos walked over to me, hammer still in hand, and stood over me. "Stay down, Maria." That moment, something inside me broke. They weren't just selfish. They were dangerous. And they had no intention of ever treating me like family again. I waited until they turned away. Then I got up slowly, grabbed my phone, and ran to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. They banged on the door. "What are you doing?" Isabella shouted. I was shaking, tears streaming down my cheeks, but I managed to call someone I never thought I would call. David. My old childhood friend who now worked in social services. He had told me once, "If you're ever in trouble, no matter how big or small, just call me." I told him everything, in short, panicked gasps. He told me to stay put. Help was coming. But help wasn't fast enough. A loud crash hit the door. They were trying to break in. "Maria, open the door or we'll knock it down," Carlos yelled. And then, suddenly I remembered something. Under the sink, wrapped in a plastic bag, was a pepper spray bottle my neighbor Rosa had given me years ago. I had laughed when she gave it to me. "You'll never need this," I had said. But I needed it now. As the door gave way and Carlos burst in, I closed my eyes and sprayed. Right into his eyes. He screamed. Loudly. Isabella rushed toward me, and I turned and sprayed her too. She dropped the envelope of money and screamed in pain. I ran out of the bathroom and grabbed my phone again. This time I called the police. My body was shaking. My heart was beating like a drum. But I had done it. I had fought back. As Carlos and Isabella rolled on the floor crying, their kids finally went silent. They stared at me, confused, afraid. And just then, the sirens started blaring in the distance. The door slammed shut behind me, and I stood in the dark hallway, my heart racing like it did the night they hit me in the face. This time I wasn't a girl anymore. I was an old woman who had seen enough. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the fire that still lived inside me, the fire they tried to burn out all those years ago. I had just seen Diego's face, the same brother who once threw the first punch on my birthday. And tonight I would face him again. I took a deep breath and stepped into the kitchen of the family house. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard it, a soft, tired voice. Maria. It was Isabella, my youngest sister, her once rosy cheeks now pale with age and regret. She stood at the kitchen counter, chopping onions slowly, as though her bones carried the guilt of our childhood. I walked in fully, my cane tapping on the old tile floor. "Why are you here?" she asked without turning around. "I came to speak with Diego," I said calmly. "Where is he?" She hesitated. "He doesn't want to see you." Gave a short laugh. "Of course he doesn't. Bullies never want to face their victims after they grow strong." Isabella flinched at the word. She turned around with teary eyes. "Maria, we were wrong. I was wrong. I should have stopped them. I should have helped you. But I was scared too." For a moment, her voice softened something in me. The memory of the three of us playing in the river, running barefoot on the hot village sand, flashed through my mind. But that softness didn't last long. "You weren't scared when you watched them tie me up in the shed," I said, voice steady. "You laughed. You were scared when you needed someone to blame, not when I cried for help." She lowered her head. "I can't change the past." "No, you can't," I said, "but I can make sure it never repeats." Just then Diego walked in. Still tall, still proud, but older now, with a limp in his walk and a scowl frozen on his face like it had never left. "What is she doing here?" he barked. My heart picked up speed, but I stood tall. "I came to give back what you gave me all those years ago." He sneered. "I don't have time for your drama, Maria. We're not kids anymore. Let it go." I stepped forward, holding out the worn-out photo of me as a young girl on my birthday. My face in the picture was swollen, my smile forced. "This was the day you all decided I didn't matter. The day you taught me to survive." He looked at it and scoffed. "Still clinging to the past, I see." "No," I said firmly. "I'm making peace with it." Then I turned to Isabella. "You said you were sorry. Now show me. Speak the truth." She looked at Diego, trembling. "Diego, we were wrong. What we did to Maria was cruel. We never paid for it, but we should have. And you," she turned to me, "you deserve to be heard." A moment of silence fell. Diego's fists clenched. "So this is why you came? To make us feel bad?" "No," I said. "I came because my granddaughter asked me why I never visit my siblings. I wanted to show her that silence is not peace." Diego slammed his hand on the table. "You're not a saint, Maria." "I don't have to be," I replied. "But I won't let your lies be the last chapter of my life." And just as I turned to leave, he reached out and grabbed my arm. My reflex kicked in. I swung my cane hard and fast. It hit him square in the side of the face. He stumbled backward into the chair. The room froze. Isabella gasped. I stood still, breath heavy, as the moment replayed over and over in my head. It was the same side of the face he had hit me on my birthday. And now, finally, I had given it back to him. But I hadn't expected what happened next. Diego looked up at me, blood on his lip, and whispered, "Now, I remember why Father said you were the dangerous one." Froze. "What did you say?" He smiled, a twisted smile. "You don't know the whole story, do you, Maria?" A deep chill ran down my spine. "What story?" But Diego leaned back in his chair and said, Ask Mama. If she's still alive. My heart sank. Mama had disappeared shortly after I turned 13. And now Diego was saying it wasn't an accident. My hands shook, not with anger this time, but with fear. Because maybe, just maybe, the birthday beating wasn't the worst betrayal after all. I stood there frozen, Diego's words echoing in my ears like a bell tolling in the dark. Ask Mama if she's still alive. He leaned back in the chair, a faint trickle of blood running from his lip. His smile smug like he'd just detonated a bomb and was watching the debris fall. Mama's dead, I said slowly. She died in the river when I was 13. Everyone said it was an accident. Diego raised an eyebrow. Did she really drown? Or was she silenced? The kitchen grew colder. The air, once thick with the stench of onions and old regrets, now hung heavy with something more dangerous, truth. What are you saying? I whispered. Isabella backed against the counter, covering her mouth with both hands. No, Diego. Don't. Diego shrugged. Why not? She came here digging for pain. Might as well give her the whole shovel. My knees wobbled. I gripped my cane tighter. You knew something about Mama's death? Asked again. Diego stood now, facing me, and his tone grew darker. She threatened to report us. All of us. Said she'd go to the priest, the village head, the schoolmaster. She caught us. The night we tied you to the tree. I stared at him, feeling the room tilt slightly under my feet. She screamed, slapped me, called me a demon. But when she turned to run, Father stopped her. He said if she opened her mouth, the whole family would rot in prison. My heart pounded like thunder in a metal drum. Father! Diego nodded. He pushed her. She hit her head on a rock. That was it. Isabella was sobbing now. He told us she slipped. Said not to talk about it or he'd kill us too. You let me grow up thinking she left me. I choked out, my voice trembling. You let me cry for her every birthday. Every time they beat me, I begged for her. And you all let me believe she was gone by accident. Diego's face twitched. We were children, Maria. We did what we were told. He made us monsters. But you, he pointed at me. You survived him. That's why he hated you. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Everything I believed collapsed like rotten wood underfoot. My mother, the one person I had hoped might come back someday, had died trying to protect me, and her death was buried in lies. I can't breathe, I whispered. Isabella ran to me, trying to hold me. Maria, I'm so sorry. I was weak. I didn't know how to fight him. I still don't. I pushed her off gently. I needed her. I needed her so badly. And you. All of you. You let me drown in pain for decades. I thought you'd forgotten, she said through tears. I thought you'd buried it. No, I said, shaking my head. I buried myself. A silence fell between us. Only the ticking of the old wall clock dared to speak. Then I stepped closer to Diego and looked him dead in the eyes. I will make this right. Not just for me. For her. For Mama. He didn't flinch. And how do you plan to do that? I will tell the truth, I said firmly. To the whole village. To your children. To your grandchildren. They deserve to know what blood runs in their veins. You wouldn't dare, he growled. Smirk. Watch me. I turned to leave, but Diego shouted behind me. No one will believe you. You're just a bitter old woman with stories. I paused at the doorway, my voice calm but steely. Then I'll show them the scars. And the picture. And the blood on your mouth. Let them decide. With that, I stepped out into the night, the air cool on my damp face. Outside, the moon hung high, like Mama's watchful eyes from the beyond. I clutched the old photograph in my hand, the same one from my 12th birthday, the day they tried to break me. But now I walked away unbroken, still breathing, still burning. And just as I reached the gate, a tiny voice behind me called out from the shadows. Grandma Maria. Turn. It was my granddaughter, Rosa, her wide eyes full of questions. I didn't say a word. just bent down, opened my arms and held her tight. As I held her, I made a vow to myself. This story, our story, would no longer be a secret. And the next chapter would be one they could never silence again. I held that torn photo in my hand and stared at it like it had the power to open a door I had locked for decades. My hands shook, and my breathing became heavy. My body remembered what my heart had tried so hard to forget. That birthday was the last one I spent with my siblings before everything changed. I was turning 16. My brother David had just returned from the city. Carmen and Isabella were whispering and laughing in the kitchen, pretending to bake a cake. I thought it would be a day filled with joy, hugs, and maybe a small dance in the backyard under the mango tree like we used to. But the second the guests left and the laughter died down, everything turned dark. David came into the living room with something sharp in his voice. "You think you're better than us now," he said, stepping closer. Froze. "You act like you're the queen of this house because it's your birthday." Before I could answer, Carmen slapped me across the face. I stumbled backward. What are you doing?" I asked, holding my cheek. My skin burned, not just from her hand but from the betrayal. "You never help Mama," Isabella said, her eyes full of fire. "You think you're special just because Papa left his money to you." I had no words. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. Then David punched me. Right in the face. I remember the sharp pain in my nose, the taste of blood in my mouth, and the sound of my own body hitting the floor. I remember the silence after that. No one said sorry. No one helped me up. They just stood there looking down on me like I was nothing. And at that moment something inside me changed. But I didn't fight back. Not yet. That came later. Back in the present, I wiped my tears and put the torn photo into my pocket. The memories had power, yes, but they also gave me strength. I had survived that day. I had survived many worse ones after it. And now, my granddaughter Lila had questions I hadn't answered yet. "Grandma," she said, walking into the living room. "Why are you crying?" I smiled weakly and sat her on my lap. "'Cause sometimes memories hurt. But they also teach us how far we've come." She didn't fully understand, but she nodded and hugged me. Her tiny arms wrapped around my shoulders like a warm promise that things could be different. Later that night I made a decision. I would go back to the village. Back to the old house, back to where it all happened. I packed a small bag with clothes, that torn birthday photo, and my father's old scarf. I didn't tell anyone I was going. Not even Lila's mother. This was something I had to face alone. The bus ride to the village was long and bumpy. The roads were worse than I remembered. Everything looked smaller, older, more broken. Just like the memories. When I got to the house, I found it locked up and abandoned. Vines crawled up the walls. The roof had holes. The paint peeled like dry skin. But it was still there. And so was Carmen. She appeared from behind the side of the house holding a bag of oranges. Her hair had turned silver, her eyes sunken. But she still had that sharp stare. "You came back," she said. "I had to," I replied. She didn't invite me in. She just stood there like a gatekeeper to my past. "Why now?" "Because I'm tired of carrying it all alone," I said. She laughed. "You think you're the only one who suffered." "I don't know what you suffered," I said. "You never told me. You never let me in. But you didn't have to hit me. None of you did." Carmen's eyes grew soft. Just for a second. Then they hardened again. "You think saying sorry will change what we did?" she asked. "No," I said. "But it might change what we still have left." For the first time in years, she looked like she didn't know what to say. That night, I slept inside the old house on a pile of rags. The wind whistled through broken windows, and I could hear rats scratching beneath the floor. But I slept. Somehow I slept. In the morning I heard another voice outside. It was David. I peeked through the window. He looked worse than Carmen. His back was hunched. He had a walking stick. Time had not been kind. "I heard she's back," he said. "She shouldn't have come," Carmen replied. "She's stronger than all of us." I waited until he walked away before stepping outside. Carmen, I said quietly. Can you call them? I want to speak to all of you. She looked unsure, but she nodded. That evening, we all sat around the same table where they once cut my birthday cake. Now the wood was cracked and the chairs wobbled. But we sat, me, Carmen, Isabella, and David. I placed the torn photo in the center of the table. Do you remember this day? Yes. Nobody answered. You hurt me, I said. You broke me. But I survived. And I want to know why. David looked up. His eyes were red. Because we were angry, he said. Angry at Papa. Angry at Mama. Angry at life. And you were the only one who smiled. We hated you for it. You should have talked to me, I said. You were always the favorite, Isabella added quietly. We thought hurting you would make us feel better. But it didn't. And then Carmen did something I never expected. She reached across the table and held my hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I didn't pull my hand away. Maybe this was the healing I never thought I'd find. But just when I thought peace had come, something shattered. A knock at the door. We turned. David opened it. And standing there was someone none of us expected to see. Our mother. We had all believed she was dead. But she wasn't. And she had her own secrets to tell. I turned slowly, shaking. The chair scraped against the floor as I stood up. My eye throbbed where my sister Julia had slapped me. My cheek was red and swollen, and the blood on my lip had started to dry. I'm done being your punching bag, I said, loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. Carlos, the middle brother, stepped forward, smirking like always. What are you going to do, Maria? Cry again. Call Mom from her grave. That was it. I grabbed the birthday cake, my own birthday cake, and smashed it into Carlos's face. The crowd gasped. Frosting flew everywhere. For a moment, everything stood still. Then, in one wild second, I felt it. Power. I wasn't the quiet little sister anymore. I had snapped. And they were finally scared. Julia screamed. You're crazy. No, I whispered. I've just had enough. Before she could reply, I shoved her shoulder just once. But it was enough to send her stumbling into the wall. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little bit. Not after years of pain. Not after what they did to me, especially on my birthday. Then I walked out of the house and slammed the door behind me. That moment was loud. Explosive. And for the first time in my life I had fought back. But the silence that followed was even louder. Outside, the cold air hit my face. I was breathing heavily, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. I didn't know where to go. Had nowhere. No money. No friends nearby. Nothing but a handbag with my phone, a tiny purse of coins, and a pocket mirror. I looked at myself in that little mirror. My eye was swollen. My face looked wild. My hair was messy from the struggle. But in my reflection I saw someone new. Someone who could finally stand up for herself. I walked down the street, passing quiet homes with windows glowing warm. Families were eating together, laughing, celebrating. I imagined what my birthday could have been if I had a real family. I imagined being loved. I found a bench at the bus stop and sat down. For a long time I just sat there with my arms wrapped around myself. No bus came. The sky got darker. And soon the wind picked up. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned fast, my heart jumping. It was Lucia, my older cousin. The only family member who had ever shown me a little kindness. Maria, she said, surprised. What happened to your face? I burst into tears. She rushed to sit beside me, pulling me into a hug. Tell me everything. And I did. I told her what happened at the birthday. How Julia hit me. How Carlos laughed. How nobody helped. How I broke. How I shoved Julia. How I ran. Lucia didn't say a word while I talked. She just listened. And when I was done, she said, You're staying with me. I couldn't believe it. But your house is already full. Your family, she said. And the only one in that house who still remembers how to be human. That night, I slept in Lucia's guest room. It was small but warm. She gave me pajamas, made me tea, even put cream on my bruises. For the first time in a long time I felt safe. The next few days were quiet, peaceful. I helped Lucia clean. We cooked together. We even laughed a little. But the peace didn't last long. On the fourth day, she got a call from Carlos. I was in the kitchen when she answered. She put the call on speaker. "Where's Maria?" Carlos barked. "Tell her to come back and clean up the mess she made. She ruined Julia's arm and the party." Lucia looked at the phone like it was poison. "She's not coming back," she said. "She's our sister." "No, Carlos. You and Julia lost that right the moment you hit her. On her birthday." Carlos tried to shout back, but Lucia hung up. I couldn't stop shaking. "They're going to come here. I know it." "They won't," she said. "And if they do, I'll be ready." I wasn't ready, though. 2 nights later it happened. I was coming home from the little grocery shop at the corner. Just a bag of bread and eggs in my hand. I was humming softly to myself, the evening breeze cool on my skin. And then I saw them. Julia and Carlos, standing at the top of the street. Waiting. Froze. "Maria!" Julia called out. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. "We just want to talk." I stepped back slowly. "Don't run," Carlos warned. "Let's just have a little talk." I knew that tone. I dropped the bag of groceries and ran. They chased me. My feet hit the pavement hard. I turned the corner and dashed toward Lucia's house. But I knew I couldn't outrun both of them. Suddenly, I tripped over a rock on the sidewalk. I hit the ground hard. Pain exploded in my knees and hands. I tried to get up, but before I could, I felt them grab me. "Let me go," I screamed. Carlos laughed. "This is for making us look bad in front of everyone." Julia grabbed my hair. "You think you're better than us now? Living with Lucia?" "Huh!" I fought hard. I screamed. But they were stronger. Just then I heard a door slam open. Lucia. She had a broomstick in her hand and fire in her eyes. "Get away from her," she shouted, charging toward us. Carlos let go of my arm. Julia stepped back. Lucia swung the broom and hit Carlos on the back. I said, "Get out." They ran off into the night like rats. Lucia dropped beside me, panting. "Are you okay?" I was crying again. I tried to fight. "And you did," she said. "You're not alone anymore." He took me inside, cleaned me up again, wrapped my knees, held me close. But that night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. They had come for me. And they would again. Something had to change. I had to end this. Once and for all. The next morning, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. My Aunt Rosa, our mother's sister. A woman with a big mouth and an even bigger heart. She had stayed away from our family for a long time because of how Julia and Carlos treated everyone. But when I told her what happened, she didn't hesitate. "I'm coming," she said. "And I'm bringing help." I didn't know what she meant by that, but I was about to find out. That weekend, Aunt Rosa arrived. And with her came evidence. Old photos, letters, recordings. Proof of the way Julia and Carlos had abused me for years. She had saved everything. And now, she was ready to expose them. "We're going to the family court," she said. "They won't hurt you again." Felt nervous, scared, but hopeful. Lucia took my hand. "We're with you, Maria. Every step." Just then Lucia's phone buzzed. It was a message. From Carlos. The message had only 3 words. "We're not done." And attached was a picture of my old room, trashed, burned. My heart dropped. They had burned all my childhood things. My drawings, my letters, my little pink diary, everything. They weren't just trying to hurt me. They were trying to erase me. But they forgot something. I was still standing. And this time I was ready to give it all back. That I screamed with every breath left in me. "You will never hurt me again." I shouted as I stood over Isabella, my fists shaking, my cheeks still wet with tears and blood. She stared up at me from the floor, stunned, her eyes full of fear, the same fear I had carried in my heart for years. David rushed in behind me, panting and wide-eyed. "What did you do, Maria?" "I did what no one else ever dared to do," I said, my voice shaking. "I stood up for myself." The room was silent. You could hear the sound of the old wall clock ticking. My other siblings stood frozen. Even Ricardo, always loud and ready with a smart remark, couldn't say a word. For the first time in my life, they were all quiet, because they saw what they'd made me become. Isabella wiped her lip. It was bleeding, just like mine had bled many times in the past. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel strong. I just felt free. The memory of my birthday morning came rushing back. The cake I had bought with the last money from my pocket, the simple wish to be loved, celebrated, acknowledged. But instead I got mocking laughter, hands grabbing my hair, and the sharp sting of Isabella's palm across my cheek. And then all of them joined in. All I wanted was peace. But peace never came unless you fought for it. Suddenly, Mama's voice rang out from the doorway. "Dios mío! What's going on here?" She stared at the mess, the broken frame on the floor, the cake smeared on the wall, Isabella on the ground, and me standing there trembling. "What is this madness?" "Mama," I said, my voice breaking. "They've been hurting me. For years. And I finally stopped them." She stared at me like she didn't understand. Like the truth was too hard to believe. Then David, the oldest, cleared his throat. "It's true." Isabella whipped her head toward him. "David." "No," he said firmly. "It's true. We've treated Maria terribly. Like she was beneath us. Like she didn't matter. It was wrong." Silence again. I could barely believe it. The same David who once told me I was adopted just to make me cry. Now he looked guilty. Mama sat down in the chair, her hands on her lap, trembling. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you all treat her like that?" Isabella looked away. Ricardo scratched his head. "I don't know. She was always so quiet. So easy to tease." "Mama," I said, looking into her eyes. "I didn't fight back because I was weak. I fought back because I finally realized I was worth it." Mama's lips trembled. She opened her arms slowly. "Come here." I walked into her hug, my body still stiff from everything that had happened. I felt her hold me like she hadn't in years. Tight, warm, protective. The way a mother should. "Forgive me," she whispered in my ear. "I should have seen it." I nodded, tears rolling down. I just wanted to be loved. That night, the house was still. No one spoke much. Isabella stayed in her room. Ricardo avoided my eyes. David brought me some warm tea and sat quietly beside me. "I should have protected you," he said. I looked at him. "Why didn't you?" "I guess I was scared. Or selfish. Maybe both." "Well," I said, "I guess now we all get to be better." The next day I left the house. I didn't tell them where I was going. Only that I needed time. I took a small apartment in the city and started fresh. I found work in a flower shop. It wasn't fancy, but the smell of fresh petals each morning reminded me of peace. Sometimes on my way home, I'd look at my reflection in the shop windows. My face still carried the faint scar from that birthday, but I never hid it. It was a part of my story now. Reminder. Weeks turned into months. Isabella wrote me a letter. It was short. "Maria, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I see now how cruel I was. I hope you are healing. Isabella." I didn't reply, but I did cry. Ricardo called once, just to say hi. We talked about the weather and our favorite movies when we were kids. He didn't say sorry, but I could hear it in his voice. Mama visited me. She brought homemade soup and tried to decorate my little apartment with pictures of saints and crocheted tablecloths. "Let her." "Maria," she said softly, "I think you saved this family." I laughed. I think I just saved myself. But there was one last part of me that still needed peace. So, on the 1-year anniversary of the fight, I returned home. They were having dinner. The same old table. The same old smell of Mama's stew. But this time it felt different. They looked surprised when I entered, but not angry. David stood up and hugged me. Ricardo pulled out a chair. Isabella stayed seated, her eyes downcast. For a moment no one spoke. Then I said, "Thank you all for coming to dinner." They smiled, all of them, even Isabella. Later that night, after dessert, Isabella approached me outside. "Maria," she said, her voice shaky, "I hurt you. I don't know how to fix that." I looked at her. "You can't. But you can make sure no one else ever feels like I did." She nodded. "I want to be better." "I believe you," I said. Then she held out her hand. I stared at it. And then I took it. Because sometimes, giving it back doesn't mean returning pain with pain. Sometimes it means breaking the cycle, standing tall, and choosing a different ending than the one they wrote for you. I went back to the city that night. Back to my quiet apartment, the flower shop, and the peaceful walks. I wasn't the same girl who once cried alone on her birthday. I was Maria, the girl who stood up, gave it back, and found her voice. Life lesson. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones closest to you. But standing up for yourself doesn't make you cruel. Makes you strong. And healing doesn't always come from revenge. Sometimes it comes from choosing peace over pain. To anyone listening to my story, you are not weak for being kind. You are not wrong for setting boundaries. And you are not alone. Thank you so much for listening to Grandma's story. If it touched your heart, if it made you cry, or if it reminded you of your own silent battles, please don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next real, raw, and emotional stories from the heart. Leave a comment. Grandma is listening. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when a new chapter drops. Your support helps us keep telling the stories no one else dares to tell. See you in the next one.